Welcome to the Fathering Strong podcast, where we celebrate the incredible journeys of fathers who are making a difference. Hosted by Urban Light Ministry President and author, Pastor Eli Williams. Each week, we'll hear from an inspiring guest who will share their unique fatherhood story. We'll discuss the challenges, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way, offering valuable insights and encouragement for all dads. Join us as we explore the power of fatherhood and build a brighter future for our families.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Fathering Strong podcast. It is so glad to have you on the viewing end of this, and I am excited to have with me today a good friend. Chris is, I guess it's hard really to kind of tell you all the things that I love about Chris. So since I can't do that, I'm going to let him tell you himself by answering a few questions I've got for him. Chris James, thank you for joining us today for the Fathering Strong podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start, first of all, as we do as a matter of course when we do these podcasts, by asking you about your experience as a father. First of all, what was the relationship like between you and your father, Chris?
So my father would be kind of what we probably think of as a very old school father. He was raised in the real, I don't know what they call it, the holler in Tennessee, and definitely a hard, poor upbringing, and a time when kids were seen, not heard, kind of way. And so I just think that my dad didn't have didn't grow up with a very strong model himself as a father. So I think my dad did his best. We didn't have a bad relationship, so to speak, but he was more of the father that just I can be thankful that he provided and put a roof over our heads. I had clothes and had enough to eat and things like that, but not much else in terms of modeling strong fatherhood.
Got it. So how have you processed that over the years? Are you at the place where you have a better perspective on why he was the way he was?
Yeah, absolutely. But it took a while too. I think that, when there's a song, every generation blames the one before. So there are times when I thought to myself, man, there's so many deficiencies, so many things that I felt like I was missing as a grown man, and even trying to become a father myself, that I would think, man, I really wish I had more of a stronger model. But I grew and learned more. And as I did, I think I began to see him as, I can't kind of fault him for what he didn't know, what he didn't know. And I think he didn't have any ill will. I mean, he was trying. He just wasn't equipped with tools probably that would have helped.
Got it. So is your father still alive?
Yeah.
What is your relationship like with him today?
We actually grew closer and closer, and probably the world of golf made us closer and closer. We became like competitive partners, and we were like, he was my my strongest competitor. We would play head to head in golf a lot for years after he retired, and he's 83 now, and he's not getting around as much. He's not unhealthy, he's just not strong. He's not be able to get around very well. So we can't really he wants to try to get out and play a little golf, but I go see him usually once a week, and I think we have a pretty good relationship now. A lot of
He's
changes.
local.
Yes.
He's local to you. Okay.
Yeah, probably 30, 40 minutes away.
Yeah. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
And then talk about your teenage years. When did you know that you were going to be an educator? I guess it would be good to tell people about your job, your career. You're actually approaching retirement, right? Talk a little bit about how you got on that path and what that has been like.
Yeah, so I had no real direction where I was going, what I was going to do. I come from that time when people and parents and people were talking about college being needed if you're going to do anything. I had no idea what I would have wanted to do. I got into college, so that was good. I thought, and so when I started, I was just undecided for a couple of years. I just took classes and thought they kept telling me I would find my way, but I really kind of wasn't. Eventually, I did become a math major, but not with education as a focus. I was going to be a math major, but I still had kind of business in my mind, thinking I'll just do something business related, and they might like me because I can handle numbers or something. I began coaching. And it was actually through coaching I enjoyed working with students. I was coaching basketball at the time, and then it kind of fit for me to kind of move into possibly going into education. It fit working with students, and I really felt like at the time one of the things I kept thinking about was that I didn't feel like sadly I didn't feel like I got a lot of guidance, sadly, from my school, from my high school, and I felt like there were kids like me that needed more help. They needed more guidance, not coming from any background from families that would, neither one of my parents graduated from high school, so needing guidance from them that they couldn't give me, thinking that there's a lot of kids out there like that. That kind of fueled me in wanting to go into education. So my math background maybe helped me become a math teacher. Did that for 10 years and then became a high school administrator afterwards. Been doing that for over 20 something years now since then.
Well, congratulations on a long, successful career. Shifting back now to fatherhood, you became a dad. So tell us how that, well, we know how it happened, but tell us, give us some background on how you became a dad for the first time and what that was like for you.
Well, I often talk about that being a huge change in my life. Just growing up with not a lot of direction and not a lot of, I didn't grow up in the church. It just kind of, I wouldn't say ultra wild, but sort of just kind of doing all kinds of different types of things that I don't think would be things that I would want to pass on to my children. And I think that my wife and I, when we got married, everything was really, really fast for us when we got married. In 1 year I got married, got into our first home together, and my oldest son came in that same 1 year. And I didn't really think, even when I got married, I don't think I was like changing my mind in terms of how I was living. But once my son was born, my oldest son, something just changed in me. I used to tell people just to like watching and seeing the miracle of childbirth. I didn't. I don't know if health class. I don't think I ever saw the movies or anything. I don't know if it would have done any different. But just know that the life, was my own God's creation. But from me and my wife coming, and being born was just a life changing event. And I think from there it just stirred something in me to want to be a good father. I just, I wanted to be a good father, but I didn't really know what that meant. And like I said, I don't feel like I had the greatest model of even like marriage or fatherhood with my father. So it really scared me to want to be a good father and husband and not know what that really meant. So it kind of caused me to really start searching, listening, talking to people. I started looking at and trying to find books on fatherhood, anything I could kind of grab, if somebody might recommend that would help me kind of read and discuss things with people to kind of help me grow. And that's really kind of how it began.
What was the main emotion surrounding your becoming a dad for the first time and not really knowing how to be a dad? Was it excitement? Was it fear? What was the dominant emotion, would you say?
That's a great question. Well, initially, I can remember that like clearly. Initially, it would be an excitement because I told people, I said, that I don't know if that was a what it feels like to be high or something like that. But like I joked around with people and said, I didn't even remember to take off work the next day. I went to work, but this whole day I spent telling students what just happened, like describing the entire story. I was just like, I couldn't believe what I saw, what happened. I had to tell everybody. So definitely excitement in the beginning, but I think once that set in and looking at this child that was my responsibility, I just kept thinking to myself, like, man, this is my responsibility. I can't fail. I need to not be able to fail. I have to figure this out. And so I definitely think that turned into almost a fear and terror of just wondering, like, man, how do I do this and make sure that all of the I was thinking to myself, all the bad in me, how do I make sure that's not transferred into this child and eventually all the other children I have as well.
Yeah, we'll get to them here in just a minute. So you really didn't have a role model, it sounds. Were there any males in your life at all, mature, responsible males, that you could turn to talk to about this new role, this new huge responsibility of being a dad was going to take from you?
I don't think I remember anyone specifically, standing out. I remember longing for that and seeking that. I believe that's where I was called to kind of wanting to learn more and learn more in the church. I mean, we didn't really have a lot of money. We were scraping, but we were determined to kind of with our first child, we were going to put him in, and did put him in a private Christian school, thinking that he was going to learn all the things that we didn't know, because we had no foundation, and so we were newly learning about and trying to learn more about our faith, which was really not there, but we didn't want that to cause problems for our children, or just our oldest that was 30. So that's what we were thinking. But that longing to learn from someone, as you put it, trying to find someone that might be that role, we weren't finding anything like that. And but I think I was finding some of that in maybe what I would listen to from a pastor at church or something like that as well.
Well, you're reinforcing the importance of the work that we're doing here in the fatherhood space, and making me wish that we could do more to reach young men who are approaching fatherhood and don't have that male in their life, that mature, responsible man who can come alongside them and walk with them in their journey. But it turned out well for you. You've had other children. Talk some about now your family. All right.
Well, we had 5 children total, but we usually always explain that I have 6, and I always tell people I have the one import, which was my nephew. My nephew came to live with us when he was in 4th grade, and kind of amazing. He's an amazing kid who, even in 4th grade, we didn't say anything about that. It was a decision that he was making on his own at that young age, saying that he felt like he was going to be really struggling, in school and different things in life that he was doing if he didn't come and live with us. And so he chose to do that, and he's been like my son ever since. So that makes, with him, it makes 4 boys and 2 girls, and lots and lots of different personalities to manage.
Okay, so let me ask you about that. Now, he the import, as you call him, is he your oldest?
No. He
he
He would
falls?
be
Talk about your age, the age range of the children, and where he fits in.
okay. He would be. We joked around at one time and gave him numbers. I have my oldest son is 29. My oldest daughter is 26. Um, you know what? I take that back. He is older than my oldest daughter, so he is number two, not three. So it goes my oldest son, my nephew, who is 27. My oldest daughter is 26. Then my middle son is he's 21. My youngest daughter is 20, and my youngest son is 17.
So they're all pretty close together, except your youngest one. There's a little bit of a gap there. So your import, what's his name?
Paris.
Okay, so Harris. So I'll stop calling him the import.
Yeah, Paris
Uh,
is Paris is the import. He's been called that many times.
so he saw something in your family and in you that made him feel he belonged and wanted and yearned to be a part of.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of probably helped with that is that um, his relationship. I don't know that he would have known how to look at this, but his mother and father were definitely at the time just way more. I don't know. They were young, um, more into what we would think of and people would call the party scene. And basically, he was um, I don't know, I hate to call him a problem, but like two parents that want to go out and do whatever they want to do on a weekend. You have this child. What do I do with this child? So their answer often from when he was very, very young, a baby even, on was to bring him to our house and we would watch him. Now, you would think most people would think like if you brought him over on Friday night that they would pick him up on Saturday, but a lot of times it was just he was there for the entire weekend. And so growing like that, I think that sort of put that into his head. He was used to us on the weekends anyway from being around with us, and he and my oldest son were very close anyway, and they always have been. So I think those were the things that kind of were a foundation for it.
So he was a baby. Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's a beautiful thing. I mean you and your wife didn't have to do that, but you did, and he has become your child
Yeah.
essentially, right?
Yep.
So you said that he and your son got along well. They still do.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
At any point, was there any sibling rivalry going on amongst your crew?
Um, not in the sense that most people see it. I think all of our kids um, kind of have seen their own individual kind of relationships and things like that too as different. In all those books I was trying to read, one of the tips that I picked up that I feel like is a good one is for a family that has lots of kids is to have a way to make each one of them feel like an individual and have a special time set aside for like them and me. So I've done that for a long, long time, even into their adult lives. That the day of their birth, the day of their birthday. My oldest son was born on the 12th, so every month on the 12th is his day. And so to have that special day that I tell them within reason, I'll say yes. It doesn't have to be with like financial, but I'll say yes, even though like I might have had a hard day at work and would like to just sit down on the couch and rest, but he wants to play ping pong or he wants to go to a movie or something like that. I would say yes. And that would be, our day just for him and I. It didn't mean we brought anybody else around. So, trying to be intentional about giving them some individual time, I think may help, but I really never saw any real major sibling rivalry with my kids. It just didn't happen. Thankfully.
Yeah, I love that plan that you devised. of each child having a special day every month. Uh, no doubt that had a lot to do with the strength of the relationship with you and each of your children, and the fact that each of them get along well together. I think that all ties in. You gave individual time and attention to each child. We always recommend that to fathers. I love that you actually have done that and you have done it systematically and it has worked out so well. So we're going to take a break, Chris, and on the other side of the break, I'm going to ask you what your biggest challenge has been in the realm of fatherhood. And then I'm going to ask you what has been your greatest joy. All right. So sit tight. My guest today on the Fathering Strong podcast is Christopher James. And we're delighted that he's with us today. And thank you as well for being a part of today's episode. We'll be back with more after this.
Looking to be the best dad you can be? The Fathering Strong podcast is your guide. Hosted by Pastor Eli Williams. Each episode features inspiring conversations with dads who are making a difference. Learn valuable strategies for building strong families, tackle tough fatherhood issues, and get motivated to be your best self. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to the Fathering Strong podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Your subscription helps us provide free services and resources to families in need. Don't wait. Subscribe to the Fathering Strong podcast today and join our community of dads committed to building strong families. Together, let's make a difference.
Welcome back. This is the Fathering Strong podcast. I'm Eli Williams. Chris James is my guest today, and he's sharing with us his own fatherhood experience between he and his dad, and also being a dad himself of a motley crew of young adults now who are doing well as a result of the good parenting of Chris. Chris, 5 children, right? Huh?
Plus one.
Plus one. That's important. Of all of that parenting, what would you say has been your biggest challenge, if you can name one?
Well, I was thinking about that when you mentioned it, and it's something that I tell my kids now as adults. I mean, I'm getting closer to that time when, actually hopeful maybe, that I'll have some grandchildren. I've told them when, we're in conversation and they'll talk about what they'll want to do when they're parents themselves and things like that differently. And I kind of remind them and warn them of something that was the biggest challenge, and I think continues to be the biggest challenge for me, even trying to help my youngest son at 17, is the no matter what my belief is, and everything that my kids have seen that I've tried to do in training to them, they know comes from our faith. And so it's grounded in our faith. But no matter, the biggest challenge is that you always, as a parent, are fighting against what the world is telling your children, that many, many times, most of the time, it seems like, is opposite what you're telling your children. So fighting that is not. That's why people talk about wanting to put their kids in a bubble away from the world, which is not a good thing either. But it is just difficult because they are going to have friends and have interactions with all kinds of other people in this world, and TV and media, video games, all the different types of things that those things are going to tell them a different story in a different way than what I would be wanting them to learn and believe in. That's always been the biggest challenge.
Yeah, boy, that's a big one. I mean, you pretty much encapsulated one of the biggest responsibility of a father, and that is being their protector, not just from physical harm, but from the harm to their soul, because we are, as believers, you're Christian, right?
That's right.
So as believers, we're called to be in the world, but not a part of it.
My kids have
And
heard me say those very words often, and I think I started with them even just as small as they could, were, to keep kind of drilling into their mind that I kept using the phrase "you're going to be different," and so hoping that saying that over and over again would help them to be able to say, like, okay, if the world is telling me something different, it's because I'm different.
yeah, so they've come to expect the world to be kind of going against them. They're in a different lane than the world. You've done a good job then of preparing them for what every child who is growing up in a Christian home is eventually going to face. That is being in foreign territory. We're aliens or sojourners, is the old English word we hear, just passing through this world and trying not to let its influence uh, diminish our faith. So, what has been the joy of parenting for you? What above other things has brought you the most joy?
I think now, I mean, I've loved just the entire time being a father and watching. That's probably the cliche answer that is, watching all my kids grow and become who they're going to become, and hearing me say often, like, not that I would tell them I'm never judging them, or my pride in them is not based upon some career that they might have or anything like that, but it's way more in their living for the Lord, and that their lives be given for service to Him. But the bigger part, like even right now, we're coming out of off of Easter weekend, and I really enjoy when they come back together, um, because I always have focused on telling them that I want them to always, as adults. I know that lives get busy. I've got one living in Omaha. I've got one living in Florida. Two that are in school in Virginia. So we're all over the place. But my hope for them, I always tell, is that I want them to want to be together, even if they can't be together. And so when we get together, we got all together this weekend, other than my oldest son in Omaha and in the import, who has his family here in Ohio. But the majority, when we get a bunch of them together, watching them come back together and be brothers and sisters is always just a great joy, because I see just that the love for each other and being together, just that close friendship as siblings is just fun. I like to sit back and just kind of watch them, interact with each other. That's a joy I love to have.
Let's talk about your career some, if you don't mind. The work that you do. Um, so tell us about how you ended up, because you are nearing retirement. How did you end up where you are about to retire as an executive, the chief executive? I believe executive director is what the
That's right.
official title
Yeah.
is, of an educational institution. Talk about your career path, getting into education, and then it leading to where you are now.
Well, I really felt like I was going to be I love teaching, still do. I thought I was probably going to be a math teacher for my entire career. I didn't have any thoughts of going any further. Um, as my faith grew, kind of like, me saying that, we're different, um, to my kids, I started worrying about and thinking about, like, in the school that I was a teacher at, I just felt like the world was kind of confusing, and I wasn't sure that I could even continue in education at all. after 9 or 10 years in teaching, and not because I didn't love teaching students and teaching math, but it was really the other stuff. I mean, I've kind of said it to teachers before, like we kind of used to call this the hidden curriculum, the other things that kids could learn from us as being role models and things like that too, as educators that maybe don't have to do with math as a math teacher. And I really just felt like at the time, and that's over 20 years ago, that it was really, really not going the right direction. The things that we were not helping to train kids to see ethical or moral types of decision making and having some sort of foundation. And I would hope partnering with their parents on those types of things. I just didn't see it that well. Where I was, I decided to try to do administration and see if there was a way to get to a school that maybe fit my value system, fit my thinking, where I could kind of still be me. And if I didn't have that, I was probably going to be looking elsewhere. Luckily, I came and moved into Clark County at the time as an administrator, and I found that in a school district where I could be me. And it seemed like the people, for the most part, wanted those stronger values, whether we called them Christian values or not. They were strong moral, ethical values in their kids. So it worked for me. I did that for several years, and really it wasn't until we have these types of things in a way, but we with our careers. Where a superintendent came in and we just didn't see eye to eye on those same types of things. Like I needed to kind of continue to be the way I wanted to be. That superintendent wanted to go a different direction, so I could see that wasn't going to be the right finish. Like I wasn't going to finish in that position. So I looked elsewhere, and then and so I haven't jumped all around a lot at all. I mean, I'm also very loyal, so I like to kind of continue to build and stay where I am. And so then I left that school, came to where I am now, and became the executive director. But wherever I've been, I've wanted to kind of continue to look for those ways to still pour into students and help train students when they need guidance, and probably more now than ever.
How did being a father enhance your, is there a skill set that being a father helps you when it comes to your relationships with your students?
That's a good way to put it, because I've always, felt like when I'm working with students, some of the students have made some of the, poorest of decisions. But I've always wanted to believe, like, and remember that this is someone's son. This is someone's daughter, and I want to treat them with more, as much respect and kindness as I possibly can. Even when I would get frustrated with them, but I wanted to kind of always, I remember when I first started this, I had an assistant who told me that there was like rumors going around or something like that. They were like, well, we're not sure how well you're doing at this job. It was a new job for me. And they were saying, because you're not yelling at the kids. And I said, well, I kind of feel like so many of the kids that I'm dealing with, that may be what they've come from, just yelling and screaming. And maybe that just, they're not really hearing what I'm saying because it's just more yelling. So I think I would be known as the kids that have known me over the years I'm known as probably a very strict disciplinarian, but I do it in hopefully a calm voice in trying to explain the teaching behind it of what we're trying, discipline. The word disciple is inside of discipline. So trying to get them to understand that it's not something I'm trying to do to them, but do for them in the hopes that will teach them maybe the error of their ways and to come with better decision making, to eventually learn to be different as they grow into adults. And probably the best part of that for me when I was doing a lot of discipline, I don't have to do that as much anymore, but when I was doing a lot of that, benefit, the reward, I think sometimes was seeing that student that was such a troubled, young man or young lady come back and see me at a gas station or see me out somewhere. And then they come up to me and you could just tell they're just a different person now. And they'll say, yeah, thank you for what you tried to do for me, or I understand now, or those are good moments that make you feel like, treating them like you would treat your own kids may have paid off.
And no doubt you were the main father figure for some of those, hundreds of students that you have had the privilege and responsibility of being their teacher and their school head over all these many years of a very long and successful career. Chris, I know you've got a busy schedule and you've got to get going because of other obligations you've got today. This is a work day for you. And I am just so thankful that you took the time out to spend it here with us on the Fathering Strong podcast. Thank you for sharing your own fatherhood story and talking about your career and your family. It has been a delight to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me. You said something earlier that made me think of way back when, when I was definitely wanting and desiring to find information, about being a better father. And I didn't grow up like reading a lot of books. I was too hyper and, playing sports more than ever stopping to read. But I wasn't even sure of how to find that type of material. Nowadays, of course, there wasn't, the internet back then. But if there was, and I was typing in fatherhood and I would have found something like your ministry. I think that it definitely would have been something I would have been checking out. I would have been looking at saying like, hey, how can I connect so that I can learn to be the father that I wanted to be so bad, and definitely was not sure of how to get there.
Well, thank you so much for that. Chris is referring to Fathering Strong. That is the free mobile app that's available for fathers for such a thing, building relationships with each other and learning and also serving. And, of course, the many resources that can be found at fatheringstrong.com and urbanlight.org. Again, thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate it. We'll let you get back to your very busy day. Chris James, our guest today on the Fathering Strong podcast. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Fathering Strong podcast. We hope you found the conversation inspiring and helpful. To make sure you don't miss out on future episodes, subscribe to the Fathering Strong podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Just search for Fathering Strong in your favorite app. The Fathering Strong podcast is brought to you by Urban Light Ministries, a nonprofit organization with a 3-decade legacy dedicated to turning the hearts of fathers to their children. Thanks to your support, we're able to keep this podcast and many other resources free for dads everywhere. To learn more about Urban Light Ministries or to donate and help us continue this important work, visit urbanlight.org. The Fathering Strong podcast is a production of Urban Light Ministries. Eli Williams is your host, and Bruce Stapleton of the Momentum Group is the producer and engineer. Our theme music is provided by saxophonist Harold Rayford.